That was fun.
Well, here lies backpacking Kit. We loved him and knew him well.
Hi everyone, I'm Kit. This week, Creature and I are heading to the Grubb Ridge trailhead at the Charles C. Deam Wilderness. And since we're leaving in the evening, right after Creature got off work, we're going to be hiking just about half a mile in to campsite 10. And then tomorrow, getting up early and making a push in the coolest part of the day for the lakeside campsites, 14 or 15, depending on what's open and looks best for us. It is definitely going to be super hot this weekend, so we are planning rather aggressively to hike only in the coolest parts of the day and carrying a bunch of water. So, yeah, we're going to see how this goes, and I am really looking forward to getting some lake time with my wife. Okay, we have arrived at the Grubb Ridge trailhead. It is much more parked up than I was expecting, and we pulled up just about when official sunset hit. There's still a little bit of dusk light above the trees, but under the trees it is very dark. So we're going to get our first experience with a little bit of night hiking and hopefully find an open campsite where we expected one. Right, so it did not take long for us to make it to campsite 10, and we're both still feeling fairly energetic. So the plan is to keep hiking and check out site 11. Partly also because this site has a lot of the kinds of pines that kill off their lower branches, so this doesn't feel super safe, especially for hammock hanging, in terms of potential branch dropping. Like, I know he's in frame, but there you go. Stay away from me. So, campsite 11 has some other people camping real nearby and has no available trees with the right spacing for hammock hanging. So, we're gonna have to push on a little more. But it's cooling off now that we're on the ridge. There's an actual breeze. And now that I've sat with my feelings for a minute, I'm a little recovered, so we can carry on. Okay, now I'm confused. I'm just all turned around. Okay, so we've got a bunch of blowdowns. Very difficult to navigate after dark. Definitely contributing to me feeling cranky. But I just want to find a site that's an actual site. Because all the flatter spots we try to look for have thorns on there. We've arrived. So, I'll fill you all in more detail in the morning, but the very short version is we made some choices. We couldn't find any good designated sites. We went through enough blowdowns that we realized we were absolutely not backtracking. And so we ended up all the way out at campsite 12. Most of the way to the lake. All we gotta do is climb down the bank tomorrow, essentially, to get to a lake site. But since it is now after midnight, we are going to pitch up and pass out. And I'll talk to y'all about more in the morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm trying to get my coffee started now. It's only been actually about 7 hours since we arrived at camp. It took us just a little while to get everything set up. And this is an incredibly cute little campsite. There's a couple large trees down over that way, but otherwise this is one of the more standard pine stands of the Charles C. Deam, with several very good places for our hammocks. Creature said that she slept lightly.
Yeah, not badly, just lightly. At one point I heard you snoring and thought something was growling, so I had to wake up.
I slept very fitfully, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super well rested today, but thanks to our little adventure last night, I don't have to be as well rested because we don't have very far to go today. So, our little adventure last night. I checked in at both 10 and 11 with you guys, and for various reasons we both weren't excited about camping either of those places. In retrospect, 10 might have been an okay place to stay after all, but by the time we realized that, we were through a giant amount of blowdowns. I've talked before about how every time I've come out here this summer, there's been signs posted about damage on the Grubb Ridge trail. And I was just kind of hoping that it would be, annoying but manageable, or maybe on the other side of the loop. But no, there's a big chunk on the west side of the loop where we were having to track up and down and side to side so much that our tracked distance on my GPS app was almost double what the line on the ground distance should have been. And it was taking us, God, I don't know how long it was taking us to get each 10th of a mile. It took us a little over half an hour to get to site 11, and then it took us 3.5 hours total from the trailhead to get to site 12, which is, to be fair, a couple miles further out, but not that much further. And in one of those times we were doing blowdown climbing and then stopped to rest on a tree. As I got back up, I managed to stumble and step with all my weight right on the middle of one of my trekking poles. So we had to just kind of collapse up what we could of that, and I'm carrying on the rest of this trip with only one trekking pole, which is kind of sad. I've had these ones since, I think, Christmas 2019. They were a gift from my parents, and they are a huge part of what made me capable of getting back out on the trail and actually doing decent mileage back when I was more sick than I am now. So I'm definitely going to be looking into replacements, because hiking with just one feels really weird. All of that is behind us, though, because we made it to 12. We had an easy place to pitch up. It actually is a very sweet and charming little campsite. We had a perfectly dry night, so I got to do stargazing from my hammock. And despite me sleeping like absolute garbage, I'm feeling much more hopeful about today, because all we have to do is go just a little further down the trail and find the path down to the lake. And then today can be all about resting, and with the extremely difficult terrain on Grubb Ridge, that means we're getting a rest day in between two hike days, rather than having to do that hike back to back in really hard weather. So in the end, it worked out really well, actually. Go us. We are mostly packed up. Creature just has a couple more things to gather, so I am sitting and trying to relax. I feel like absolute garbage, and I'm going to be utterly shocked if I don't end up with a migraine today. I'm all ready. You're all ready. So, time to go find that trail down to the lake.
Yep.
So I am definitely having a migraine. And we definitively gave up on trying to find the trail down to the lake. However, we do still have to get to the lake because that's where our water source is for today. So, after going about half a mile up Peninsula Trail, remarkably clear, but no path going down to the lake, like I'd heard murmurs of. We backtracked a little bit to an area where I'd noted a somewhat more shallow slope, and now Creature is leading the way, finding the best path down. It's not overgrown, thankfully, and it's relatively shallow, but we're just making our way. We'll get there eventually. The way has gotten steep and scary, but it's less scary than down those sides. And regardless, we're scarier. Yeah! Many kudos to Creature for doing some advanced scouting there to confirm that following the ridge will still be better than trying to get down into either ravine right now.
The footing will still be dicey, but I like it better than clambering over shale and like snags that have washed into that crevice. So,
So that was fun. We just minced our way down until we hit the very end of the ridge. And then we're trying to mince our way down even further, but in the end, it was easiest to just kind of sit down and slide down our butts about 10-15 feet of muddy, open deer trail. So, I am so dirty, but we're probably almost at lake level now, so now it's just finding hiking campsites. Creature's going to scout the other point. There have been a lot of points so far on this trip where I have felt myself wanting to almost pitch a fit, to lean into why did we make such stupid decisions? Why didn't we take the alternate route plan? Why didn't we stop earlier? Etc., etc. But what's surprised me is I haven't actually wanted to lean all the way into those emotions. I've been able to just kind of like sit at the edge of them, peer in, and be like, that would be understandable, but I don't really want to do that right now. Which is definitely an improvement for me emotionally. This has been a really rough couple of months mental health-wise. But looking at how I'm handling it versus how I would have handled it even a year ago, I am doing so much better. And I can't attribute all of that to doing backpacking this summer. But I think it's helped. So, your lakeside site survey, how did it come out?
Well, first of all, free steak. The 15 site I did manage to find, and it has some nice trees. The drop off to the beach is like a 2-foot high step down, but we can make that work, no big deal.
Yeah. Or if I want to, I can walk over to one of the more shallow spots, probably.
Yeah, because there's ways around it on either side.
Yeah.
And technically, this close to the water line, we're supposed to be in designated sites only anyway, so...
Yeah.
When that's possible, because they're not flooded, I'd prefer that.
Yeah, and, best trees really trumps all for me.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. There's a nice big oak back there.
I can do that.
We can make it.
I can make it. So, we've arrived at our site. We're definitely at designated site 15. It is absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, putting in the stakes for my tarp, setting up camp, really severely aggravated the migraine, so I am down for the count until meds kick in. am super impressed with how well our strategies to handle the heat this afternoon worked. Despite all of our challenges making it to this site, we still met our goal of getting to the site before noon. So we weren't hiking in any of the hottest parts of the day. It would have been better if we'd gotten here a little earlier, but still before the worst parts. Then, access to the lake meant no worrying about how much water we were drinking, and also the ability to take a dip, which I did after my meds kicked in, and that lets you rinse all of the salt and grime off your body, which just really enhances comfort and your skin's ability to breathe. And it also let me get some nice evaporative cooling, and despite the humidity, that still worked, just because of how hot it is. And then also hanging out in the hammocks gets you good convective cooling. Even though there wasn't a lot of breeze, every bit we got was way more effective at cooling us, laying in hammocks and resting during the heat than trying to rest during the heat in a tent or even like laying out on a pad. So despite this being an official heat advisory on this trip, we both were more comfortable than we've been on, well, especially Creature was more comfortable than she's ever been on any of our previous summer trips. This smells so good. Okay, instant new favorite. I mean, one, I love venison so much, but two, the meat pieces, rice, and vegetables give a good variety of textures, which I'm learning I really appreciate having. So, yeah, 10 out of 10. Big fan. Sunset is over and dusk is kicking in. I did all my hygiene while being aggressively hunted by both mosquitoes and deer flies, so I'm a little cranky and hot. And I sweated right up after wiping down anyway, but it can't get me now. So that's the mood I'm in as I try to chill down and get some good sleep, because we are waking up quite early tomorrow to try to make all that distance back to the car and beat the heat.
All right, so before we totally lose the light, which is going fast, quick tour of our setup. So, we are currently sharing an oak tree, big pretty oak, and I am very proud of what I did with my tarp here. So we can see that I have it up in porch mode. It's supported by my walking stick, which I found just works better for me than trekking poles for whatever reason. And I've got one corner folded back to give me a little more airflow because it is murderously hot outside. But then, because Kit is right here being friendly, hi Kit, we've got his tarp going this way, and then hooked to my pullout on my tarp, which is designed to sort of lift the tarp so it gives it a little more headroom, which I appreciate. Again, it's hot as anything out here. And then adding a second line of tension on my hiking stick, which is also secured to the ground. And that just makes me feel better because being a regular old stick, it does not have any kind of spike or anything to stick it to the ground. So I have a proper stake, my stick, cunningly angled, if I do say so myself, and our little friendship bracelet tarp deal. Ta-da!
Creature very helpfully set all this up while I was laying down with the migraines. After staking 3 corners, I was like, I don't know what to do with that corner and I'm dying, so I'm going to lay down. And Creature figured it all out, and I'm super psyched because this is one of the coolest pets I've seen. Good morning, campers. Despite the surprise storm that woke us up last night, after that, I slept shockingly well. Definitely took me off guard, both in its timing and its direction, but we were able to get camp battened down, and nothing got too wet, and it seems like nothing got blown away. Now, it's just time to get some fuel in us for the big hike out and get moving before it gets too terribly hot. So, this oatmeal is tolerable, but it is nowhere near as good as the Backpacker's Pantry one. Something about the sweetness profile is just very off-tasting to me, unfortunately. So, we have a change of plans. Creature woke up with a really rough stomach bug this morning, and given the profile of heat in the day, she doesn't feel up to hiking right now. Like, that would not be physically doable to get back up this bank, and waiting just a couple hours doesn't work because of the heat. So we are definitely going to be extending our stay at least one more day. This is why we pack a lot of extra food, just to allow for situations. And if she's feeling really solidly better, we might tackle that hill tonight and camp back up at the top. But I'm going to be inclined to just stay another whole day here because this is where the water is. We're going to play it by ear and just take a genuinely easy day in the middle now. So, it's been a very quiet, very restful day at our bonus day at camp so far. We had some rain throughout the morning that, frankly, I mostly napped through. And by mid-afternoon, Creature was finally feeling better. We debated for a while moving out this evening, but the combination of the heat, the length of the hike, and the two predicted to be extremely challenging sections of the hike, the climb up out of the lake bed and the mile plus of intense blowdown jungle time. We went back and forth a lot, but settled on we're staying another night here. So now we have the evening to relax, eat our fill to make our packs lighter, and do one last water fill up, and then get a really good night of sleep before tackling the big hike out. You're excited for dinner? I like having you in this range. Sitting together under the tarp to boil our water was really, really nice. But unfortunately, the longer we sat there, the more bugs found us. So we are yet again retreating into our separate hammocks in the enclosure of the bug netting to eat in peace. I'm glad we're getting better at handling the heat and humidity elements of summer, but I have had enough bugs this season that I am really eager for cold fall weather. Unfortunately, around here, that is still going to be a while. We are here to attempt to rehabilitate the concept of backpacking lasagna. I've heard very good things about this one, and the taste on my spoon from stirring was encouraging, but it's about time to open it up, so that doesn't look soupy at all to me. It is a really good comfort food flavor, and it rehydrated perfectly. So I'm just gonna dig in now. Let's say good night, darling.
Good night, darling.
You. Good night to you too.
I'm feeling much better and will hopefully continue tomorrow.
Yes, that's the plan. You look snug as a bug in a rug.
I am snug as a bug in a rug. I love my hammock.
We're a little slower than planned this morning, but we are finally getting rolling. Time to find our way up. We are halfway between the lake and the trail. Unfortunately, that was all the less sloped half, so this next bit's gonna be fun. So we at least made it all the way to the top of the hill. But then Creature said I could have her other granola bar, and I had a full sobbing breakdown about that. So I may be revising my opinion on whether or not that site is worth that climb back out. I told Creature I'll let her convince me to try it again in cooler weather and see if that changes my opinion. But damn. And I mean, some of my exertion is also that I'm like stress spiraling about how hard that was, but then we have to go through the absolute jungle gym hell that we went through on Friday night still too. It'll be easier with the girl behind me, so I'll do that. Oh, that's a big one. Hang on. Big spider. Big web. Oh. Yeah, I got halfway up this snag and realized that whichever way I decided to get back up and out of it, I couldn't do it with my pack on. So I just took my pack off and dropped it. And the minute it was off my back, I was like, oh, pack off break. We're taking a pack off break. And then, of course, the level of tired I am every single time we stop. I'm like, okay, no, I'm staying here forever. I'm just going to sit on this log till I die. I make the best plans. My cactus got hung up on something and I was trying to get around it and it just went over. So? Yeah, but can you scoot that way a little bit? I want to come over here. I have an easier time with some of these if I kick over this way rather than going belly down. Yeah, we're in it now though. After we get through this chunk, I'm going to want to sit in water break. Yeah.
So, normally I would not want to sit there, but shout out to Andrew of Adventure Archives for my increasing confidence in identifying Virginia creeper as opposed to mutant poison ivy, because sometimes it does get 5 leaves. Well, here lies backpacking Kit. We loved him and knew him well. It was time for a flat break. The log was just not cutting it.
Okay, time to rock and roll. I just didn't want to go over that. Look, there's really clearly a path there. This isn't much better or worse than the chunk you're looking at. You can do whatever makes you a little happy. Not immensely, but it let me skip one log. And I'm a fan of that. My hips are just so worn out. Absolutely go for it. This is just easier. it. I think this is the secondary site. At 11, and I think 11 to 5. Way better. So 11 is workable. We just didn't need to. Yeah, backrest, footrest, armrest. And where are you sitting in your backwoods armchair? No, like where are we on the trail?
Oh, Camp 11!
Yeah.
Kit was asking me about my stamps, and this is a walking stick that you can get at the base Camp 5, where on Mount Fuji, where you start doing the actual climb. The rest of it's kind of foothills. And there's a stamp that you can get at different stations up the mountain. And some of them have, heck off mosquitoes, have numerical sections, so you can see like 1,000 meters and there's another one, 3,400 meters. And you'll notice that there's one more stamp here and then nothing until we get to the very top, which is kind of faint, but it's red ink. You get that at the peak from the shrine that's at the very top. The rest of this section is blank because there is a certain point at which the station masters that have the stamps go to bed. And we were still climbing. So
because you guys are making decisions about bullet climbing Fuji.
Yeah, and there are signs all the way up telling you not to do that. And they are correct, and you should not do that. But it does also mean that I missed out on those stamps in the middle because the station people are more sensible than we are.
Yes.
But I did get to see the sunrise from Mount Fuji.
Which is very cool.
It was cloudy. Just, go figure.
We did it. We did it. Okay, so we asked for a more challenging backpacking trip and we sure got one.
Yeah, we succeeded.
I'd been picturing more miles than more terrain. But I know more about what kind of terrain pushes my limits now.
Yeah.
I almost took a couple really bad falls in the blowdowns on the way back. So we really did find the edge of a limit.
Yeah, and they're really not kidding about the Grubb Ridge trail section being heavily blocked in some places.
Yeah.
Like, I like clambering over stuff, and it was a bit much in places.
But other than the unexpected challenge level, takeaways from this trip?
I'm really proud of how we handled it. Like, we set out to challenge ourselves, and we did, and we came through. I would have preferred to skip the digestive upset on day 2 that turned this into our first 3-night backpacking trip. Yay! Overall, I feel like we managed all right. I'm really happy that I bought a towel and my sun hat for this trip, and yeah, I feel like I was better prepared for it, and that made a lot of difference.
I feel incredibly validated in my decision to pack extra food because that let us change plans. I do enjoy you pushing my limits because it really does make some things go better. I don't know. You don't visualize ahead the same way I do. You're just like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas I overanalyze and then talk myself out of things.
Yeah.
And so it's good to let you push me out of overanalyzing, but I gotta keep in mind that I'm signing up for the you didn't really think this through.
Yeah, and we did it. But
we did it.
It was harder than you maybe intended, and
yes,
I wish that the trail had been clearer in places, but
yeah,
I'm pretty happy with how we performed overall. It was a lot.
Mm-hmm. And I'm very much looking forward to our actually going to be easy trip.
Yes.
In 2 weeks.
Yes, the lazy trip is going to be
The lazy
amazing.
trip is going to be fantastic.
Yes.
And very lazy. Ice cream?
Ice cream. All right.